You are now entering Warrior Book, your guide to having it all as a modern man. As you hear my voice, make sure that you are in a quiet place and able to listen carefully. Everything I say from here on going forward is crucial to your journey in this game we call having it all. If you're watching this video now, it means that you hold in your hands an exclusive tool created specifically for a man who's committed to taking on his have-it-all journey. We don't take this lightly, nor should you. Nothing inside this warrior book is extra. None of it is fluff, nor at the same time is it lacking. From my heart to yours, I personally welcome you to the Brotherhood. And it is with great pleasure that I introduce you to the Warrior's Way to having it all. A simple methodology and belief system, crafted and perfected from hundreds of men, thousands of hours, and several years testing and distilling only the most important strategies and principles into a sequence proven to help a man have it all in body, being, balance, and business. With that being said, I invite you to consider the following. There are 720 hours in a 30-day month. Each day, brother, if you invest 1 hour into Warrior Book, this accounts for less than 4% of your month. At the heart of the Warrior's Way is an exponential quotient. Men who invest their focus 90 days at a time often collapse 1 to 2 years of work, bringing future results into the present even quicker. This isn't theory. It is now proven fact. My question for you is this. Are you willing to invest 4% of your month to collapse 1 year of expanding the quality of your life into 90 days? Or 2 years of your life into 6 months? Or 3 years of your life into 9 months? If the answer is no, then close this book immediately. You will never have it all. But if by chance your answer is yes, understand that your investment into yourself through this warrior book over the next 30 days will already begin pulling results that may have taken you 3 years originally, instead having them come to you much, much quicker. Now, in the beginning, it may start out slow. Have patience, for but you will soon find the momentum of results here inside of this doctrine, when applied, become unstoppable. Within the contents of this, we have prepared for you specific tools, of which it is very important you digest them in the sequences we've given them to you. On your left-hand side of this book, a reading experience for the Warrior's Way, as well as guide maps and blueprints, which visually convey the Warrior's Way to help you begin its simple integration into your life. Where this video lays are a series of classes and modules which allows you to watch the Warrior's Way through video. Below this video, you will find the Warrior Bit, a USB device holding all of the audios and extra resources for your listening and studying pleasure. This gives you the option to read, watch, and listen at your own discretion and on your own timelines. Your only instructions are as follows. In a moment, we will begin your first class. Pay attention closely, for every class you watch and complete will then give you your next directions. So yes, you have one simple action from here. Get into a quiet place, sit back, relax, and open your mind and your heart to yourself. Expanded as a man you've always envisioned yourself to be. For wherever you carry this book, you will always carry the tools to have it all in body, being, balance, and business. Without any further ado, let us begin. When I first began down this path, I was clueless as to the extent of the journey that laid before me. The truth was, I stepped into it looking for life. I had no vision of you. I had no vision of a movement. I had no vision of a brotherhood. I simply had the pain of the reality of my own life. I had the disconnection of scarcity that ran most of my day-to-day feelings. This sense of lack and almost an anchor that operated inside my soul. This anchor itself, no matter what I did, no matter how hard I ran, no matter how hard I tried, seemed to be hunting me, chasing me. Almost a sense as if there was something behind me, coming after me. And no matter what I did, no matter how hard I tried, no matter where I went, I could never find an actual place to hide. This sense of this something hunting me was the virus of scarcity. Most of my life I had been taught that this feeling, this scarcity itself was normal. And like an individual who has experienced chronic pain for most of their entire adult life, chronic pain becomes part of their reality. And scarcity, brother, inside of your life and my life has also been experienced this way. From our parents to our church leaders, to the people around us in the government, to those in our lives and surrounding us, not only did the sedation of men incur the ramifications of the results of kings becoming peasants, but also inside of this, we began to see for the very first time the reality of scarcity sitting and pouring itself through the veins and through the heartbeat of men around the world. This scarcity itself bled into the relationships of marriage and into the destruction and ultimately the separation of family. At the core of all nations sits the kings, and inside those kings, kingdoms, families unified with one another, strongholded against the outside forces that would attack and attempt to separate and destroy and dismantle this sacred bond. But just like all viruses, they don't immediately attack. They slowly settle in, and into the host body they begin to form themselves as normal. Scarcity became normal in my life. The idea of having it all was a far-fetched conversation. It was an impossibility inside of an insane reality with a desperation for some fantasy that might be. But when I woke up every single morning, I was being hunted. What I didn't understand was I was being hunted inside my own mind. hunted inside my own soul, and though there might be those outside of me many times coming and going, whose intent was ultimately to do harm to me, the deepest amount of harm and terrorism that existed in my life existed inside of me. It was then that I began this journey called the Warrior's Way. I didn't call it that at the beginning because I felt anything but a warrior. I felt the furthest thing from what one may consider to be a king or a warrior king for that matter. I was simply a broken, hurting man. Day by day and week by week, the doctrine began to unfold inside of me. I would make a step in one direction and it wouldn't work, and then I would make a step in another direction and it would. And then one day, the reality of life itself began to unfold before my eyes, a glimpse, a hope at the end of what was a very dark and black world that I lived in. A light that spoke to me and said that having it all was possible. But not that having it all was only possible, but it was obtainable and that it was scientific in nature. That there was a formula to obtaining this have-it-all lifestyle. And that the gateway, the virus itself of scarcity, the gateway and the serum to bring healing and solutions of power to that scarcity would come through a unique process that would become known in the Warrior's Way, to having it all. There was a combination of body, being, balance, and business, and inside of that reality, the core conversation that drew you here to the beaches of Laguna, that drew you here to this unique experience with Warrior, that conversation is also your pursuit.
I feel lost. I feel like this fight that I could win this life back to where I control it. And I tell the stories. My soul tells the stories. I get punched, I get knocked down. And I come right back. I can go again. I don't care. There's always a second. But now, I'm here now.
But there are two realities in this. There's the reality inside your mind that says, I believe it's possible to leave behind this one and two-dimensional way of living and to enter into a new code and a new commitment and a new way of being and ultimately a new way of seeing reality, and that is to experience the have-it-all lifestyle. But see, having it all is an exodus from a game of scarcity. It's an unwillingness to allow one aspect of our lives to fall victim to the virus of scarcity, while the other three strive to search for the next phase in the game, known as abundance. See, I didn't see this. The scarcity itself was so deep in so many areas at different times. My body would be accelerating toward abundance, the natural state that it was born in, and yet my beingness, my spiritual connection with God was falling apart. In deep rooted in scarcity, my marriage and the balance of my relationships with my wife and my children rooted deeply in fear and anguish and chaos. Putting it all together was the key. How was I going to put it all together? How are you going to put it all together? And inside of this conversation of having it all, there was a realization that unless the king was whole, the kingdom would perish. That the fastest path to bringing about revolution in the world doesn't come about by trying to change or revolutionize the world. It comes about by awakening the kings just like you. Showing you that the path that you live in, anchored by scarcity, possibly in your body, anchored by scarcity, possibly in your business, anchored by scarcity, possibly in your marriage, a feeling and a sense of lack being hunted by this virus from behind. That the have-it-all lifestyle in this first phase is about eradicating scarcity. It is about eliminating scarcity from your reality. It is about allowing you to wake up in the morning and to look across the kingdom and to look across the king that you have become, and to realize that in your body you are whole and you are full, that the body you have been given has become a weapon of servitude to serve you in the journey called the game of life. To wake up and recognize inside your beingness that the communication and the divinity that you have sought is something that's always been available to you. But now you see it, you hear the voice deep inside every single day, guiding you down the paths that appeared to be such a mysterious way in the past. You wake up to see the queen and that flirting back and forth, and the recognition that you two have begun to finally see each other for who you are. A willingness and a desire to be home with your children and to connect with them, to lead them, to guide them, to inspire them, not out of guilt, not out of fear, and not out of shame or blame, but driven by desire. And to look into the business and look into the bank accounts and recognize that for the very first time, all of this is happening at the exact same time. Now, to pull this off, we are armed with the code. To leave the land of scarcity and enter the land of abundance, to evolve from this game of scarcity into the land of abundance, was going to require us to leverage the fuel of fire that comes from fear. The fear of not living by the code, the fear of regressing back to the game of life. This fuel of anger and of fear becomes the fuel that you will lean on in this aspect of the journey. The warrior's way to having it all begins with the code inside of this gap between scarcity and abundance. Ultimately, it demands and commands that you stop fucking lying. Lying about where you are, lying about where you've been, lying about where you want to go. But this lie is not just one of logic and of words, but lying of emotion and fire and desire inside. Inside of this awakening of truth, the code itself begins to put a crack in the reality of the virus called scarcity. And inside of that crack, the serum for that sickness begins to be spewed into it through the core. A daily, disciplined regimen of focusing on body, being, balance in business, strategically, gamified, in a scientific, proven strategy to unify you with you, to bring about an exodus from scarcity. To get there, the fuel is fear. It seems odd that this would be the fuel to drive you from scarcity to abundance. It is literally a running away from the poverty that exists on that side and chasing down the possibility that exists inside the capsule of abundance.
The way I have reacted with you, because
and here's the thing, like a lot of men think that their wife is the craziest, right? That their wives are bitches or just like nuts, right? And I'm gonna say the reality. Women are just nuts. They are.
no, and
right?
I agree.
And here's the thing. It takes a man to be able to handle a powerful woman. And oftentimes these men, they give up because they don't have the capacity to be able to handle a strong woman. And that's where I had to grow and expand myself to handle this powerful woman. Not only is she powerful physically, but mentally, emotionally. Everything demands a high altitude of capacity from me. And but guys would rather quit, think that there's something better once they leave their wives or once they get a divorce, and that's just not the case. Women require a strong man, and if you rise up, you'll keep your marriage together. But a lot of guys are not in it for the long haul. They're not in it for the fight.
And so, this journey of have it all is simply the beginning. When I first started down this path, you could have not convinced me that there was anything beyond this. Because once a man arrives at this place of abundance, sitting squarely in the middle of a three-pronged, expanded journey, he realizes for the first time that the life that he lived before was ridiculous. That the things that he considered tolerable are ridiculous. That the behaviors and the belief systems that he operated on for 10, 20, 30, 40 years were asinine. They were beliefs and they were behaviors that only made sense in the paradigm of scarcity. But once armed with the power of having it all, once armed by the code of living by a code, brother, of standing inside of truth and reality, no matter how ugly it may be to others. Armed with these two, the shield of the code and the sword of the core, standing in abundance for the very first time, you recognize that going back is no longer an option. You, brother, are not there. You're not. Because if you were, you would not be here. You were here searching for that reality, searching for the abundant game of a king with an established order of a kingdom. A man who was unwilling to be a king simply in one domain while being a peasant in another. This is your calling. This is why you are here. This is why you have come. Searching, longing, hoping that this is the place. Now, when a man, after the first year inside this journey of going from asleep to awake, from awake to active, from active to application, and from application to acceleration, that entire journey of the warrior sits and fits inside of this gap between scarcity and abundance. It is a game of ascension as a man rises from scarcity into his rightful place as a king in abundance. Inside of that place opens the next chapter. It is a chapter not driven by fear. It is a chapter driven by fire of purpose. Once having tasted of the abundant lifestyle available in the have-it-all game, the warrior then evolves into the next phase we call fund it all.
Now let's actually be handing out the awards. With me, sexy beast. All right. The world's most, the strongest guru in the world. Okay, gentlemen, here is the application of this. You're going to take that lesson and you're going to ask yourself, how does it apply to body beat bouncing business like we always do? But specifically to where you're going the next quarter. Not just in some ethereal big way. How does this generally apply to my body? Nope, fuck that. We're going to...
Inside of this second phase is a commitment to solidify the game, both in mind and in strategy, in skill sets and in environment, to assure that abundance itself is no longer simply something that's being strived for, but that the fear of losing it is eradicated from their lives also. And order and protection and established systems across body, being, balance, and business during year 2 in this brother's journey. He begins to solidify his kingdom, to build high the walls and deep the moats, to protect against those eroding factors of the virus that he so readily knows that you so readily experience even today. These walls are built not out of a fear of going back, but out of a commitment to maintain an abundance in marriage, abundance in the body, abundance in spirituality, abundance inside of the business, and the expansion that occurs across all of it. A man who arrives at this stage and fund it all will spend a year or more committing himself to diving into the mindsets and skill sets necessary to bring about this reality. But it is simply a preparation. For inside of this establishment of abundance, this phase called Fund It All, this game itself, as it establishes itself, also goes through its same process of asleep, to awake, to activate, to apply, and to accelerate. These 5 steps repeat themselves again. Only this time in the establishment of abundance. The commitment to never go back. As we as a brotherhood began to arrive at this place, and as man after man began to establish this order inside of his reality, the next chapter awoke in us, that of prosperity. See, in phase 1 of Have It All, it's truly a selfish conversation. It's a conversation of awakening the king. Inside of the second phase of abundance becomes a closer knit conversation of establishing order with the queen and the family and the kingdom. But prosperity is about leaving a legacy. Prosperity is about pursuing empires. Prosperity is about putting a dent in the fucking universe. This phase and this transition we call Leave It All. I sit here in silence in this place with you, so that you can see one simple thing. The journey you have stepped into, brother, is just beginning. Years and years I have played and waged this war. Years your brothers who have come before you have waged this war. And they sit with established kingdoms as I do, waiting for you to awaken as a king, to establish your kingdom, and to join us in the empire. Self-reliant, self-sufficient, and able and willing to hear the voice, and as a brotherhood, change the world.
This is when me and my dad went to Applebee's, and that's when I'm pretty sure when I was exercising.
What is We Live by a Code?
Get raw, stay relevant.
This can feel heavy. It can feel quite intense. And just like running 188 miles, yes, I've done it. If you focus too far down the path, you get overwhelmed at mile number 2, recognizing and realizing that it will be 2 more days of running before you sleep. This thought becomes too intense and it ultimately folds in on itself. And so here inside this conversation, I want to simply bring a focus to you, to where you are. You have gone in phase number 1 inside of the have it all process. You are in the process and the establishment of being a king and eradicating scarcity from your life. You've gone from asleep to awaken. And though there may be 100 miles between where you stand today and the ultimate prosperity of the leave it all phase of being a warrior king unified in an empire, understand that we all began with that first step, just like you. Dive deep into the doctrine. Allow it to distill itself on your mind and on your soul. And know that these subtle small changes that you are experiencing, they are merely paving the way for the next commitments. For who you are at this time is not big enough to make them, but who you will be at the end of activation will be prepared. So today, all that needs to be done is do the work in front of you. Empires are not built overnight. Lives are not changed in an instant. Scarcity is not ridded from our lives over a weekend. The establishment of abundance is not found in 1 week. But if you are willing to wake up and take this journey on every day and live the warrior's way, brother, there is a future that sits in front of you that will make the reality that you come from seem like nothing more than play. Welcome to the phase of activation. Prepare yourself